With emerging technology and the COVID-19 pandemic, more employers than ever are turning to video conferencing for job interviews, with the most popular software, of course, being Zoom. And since these interviews are here to stay, let's go through 5 tips to help you nail your next Zoom interview. Hello friends, I'm AshleyStahl, a counterterrorism professional turned career expert, host of the U-Turn podcast, and best-selling author of the book also named U-Turn. For some people, interviewing on Zoom sounds like a dream come true. And they're not wrong. Plus, if you're like me, you get to wear your weird pajama pants. Okay, just kidding, don't do that. But seriously, there are so many benefits that come with interviewing for a job from the comfort of your own home. There's no commute, it often feels like less pressure, and many would say it's actually a lot less awkward. For these people, it's easy to wake up 15 minutes before it starts, throw on a dress shirt, and just go for it. Nonetheless, you have to remember, a video interview is still a face-to-face interview. And then, of course, there are also people who don't really like the idea of a Zoom interview. They have the opposite worry that it'll be awkward since it isn't in person, or perhaps they just don't like the idea of taking away that personal touch of a handshake, or maybe they're even worried about tech problems. I mean, I get it. Nothing is an interview buzzkill quite like a shoddy internet connection. It's true that there are both advantages and disadvantages of interviewing over Zoom. In fact, the career services platform Handshake, they recently found out that 89% of employers are now adopting virtual interviews more fully. Knowing this, job hunters need to prepare for the likelihood that their interviews will be there for the foreseeable future behind the computer screen. For some people, interviewing on Zoom sounds like a dream come true. And they're not wrong. Plus, if you're like me, you get to wear your weird pajama pants. Okay, just kidding, don't do that. But seriously, there are so many benefits that come with interviewing for a job from the comfort of your own home. There's no commute, it often feels like less pressure, and many would say it's actually a lot less awkward. For these people, it's easy to wake up 15 minutes before it starts, throw on a dress shirt, and just go for it. Nonetheless, you have to remember, a video interview is still a face-to-face interview. And then, of course, there are also people who don't really like the idea of a Zoom interview. They have the opposite worry that it'll be awkward since it isn't in person, or perhaps they just don't like the idea of taking away that personal touch of a handshake, or maybe they're even worried about tech problems. I mean, I get it. Nothing is an interview buzzkill quite like a shoddy internet connection. It's true that there are both advantages and disadvantages of interviewing over Zoom. A lot of the preparation might be similar, but a video interviewer is also unique, so it's important to prepare. Number 1, prepare your space. When you land a Zoom interview, the first thing you need to do is prepare your space. This should go without saying, but first you want to make sure it's distraction-free. Be sure to tell the people who live with you that you will be in a very important meeting. Put a sign on both the inside and front door so no one knocks or rings the doorbell. Also, as much as I love animals and know they are part of the family, keep them far away from your room, or even consider getting a dog sitter that day. Other factors to note is to ask yourself, when does your neighbor tend to have a gardener come by? If you listen to the U-Turn podcast, you'll hear a couple episodes with the gardener. When does yours come? Sounds like this can interfere with your conversation, but they're totally avoidable. Plus, it's key to note that people tend to do things on video interviews that they would never do in person, such as glancing at their cell phone. You might not think the interviewer will notice, but they will. Keep the distractions away. A second huge point is to be sure you tidy up your area so it looks clean and uncluttered. I know this might sound obvious, but research has indicated that people who see someone with a messy space potentially see them as less trustworthy. And the last thing you need during your interview is to leave the recruiter with trust issues. Thirdly, make a point to ensure that your face and your area around you are well lit. Add some lights if you have to. Set up the camera in a flattering angle so that it's head on and eye level. I'll never forget my first virtual interview. True story. My camera was angled as though I was pretty much on the Blair Witch Project, and it was Bad News Bears. As much as you want to show everything in your nostrils, let's just not do that. Check to make sure that your background is attractive. If you have no good place to interview, consider using Zoom's green screen feature. Larry Becker, author of the book Great on Camera, points out that people want to focus on your face and not really whatever's behind you. He says that even sometimes those small trinkets in the background, like I have here, according to him, a plain and simple background is the best and least distracting. I'm a big fan of houseplants, both given the benefits they provide as a background decoration, but also just to add oxygen into your house, into your lungs. Number 2, prepare yourself. Your interview might not be in person, but it's important to give it the same gravity as if it was. Preparation is key. It builds confidence, it helps you better manage your energy, because nothing in the world is worse than the anxiety that tends to just waft out of us when we're unprepared. And practice just sets you up for what could be a really good conversation. Just like a classic interview, know the job description and write down specific questions to ask. Part of this means going back to the basics, walking yourself through your resume and practicing how to talk about it, remembering how to talk about your career, and even doing one of my favorite resume exercises prior to an interview. Write 2 columns down. One is called skills needed for the new job, and the other column is shown as ways I've met these skills in the past. Take that time to effectively understand how your past fits the future job you want is so key for the conversation to go well. Another big mistake I see job seekers making is in forgetting how to answer the most basic interview question, tell me about yourself. We actually have a video here on this YouTube channel on how to craft your elevator pitch. Be sure to check that one out. Once you've nailed your content and perhaps even spoken out loud in front of your mirror a few times, it's time to get into logistics. Be sure to also upgrade your Zoom account beforehand and give yourself a professional profile picture. Be familiar with all the features, including the mute button, just in case your dog is barking and can't get it together when the Amazon guy is outside your door. But then again, maybe that won't be a thing for you if you choose to get a dog sitter, which again is such a good choice when you have an interview. One helpful feature Zoom has is that you can record your calls. This is such a good tool for your own practice. You can even write down some interview questions, ones that are basic and ones you're particularly nervous about, and record yourself before your interview in front of the screen answering them. From there, you can perhaps, fine-tune both of your answers and your appearance. Take note of your tone of voice, your eye contact, and even start to brainstorm on questions they might ask you. Tools like Glassdoor.com are so powerful to learn what interviewers are looking for and even the questions that they're asking these days. Also, keep in mind that although it might be tempting to look at the person on the screen, take note that when you look straight into the camera, you are actually creating the experience of eye contact for the listener, and this makes you more memorable and more connected to them, even if staring at the little dot is a little bit awkward. And of course, have a copy of your resume as well as a pen and paper and a glass of water nearby. Number 3, minimize technical difficulties. With the rise of technology also comes the rise of technology problems, but there are actions that you can take beforehand to minimize them. First off, close out all of your programs on your computer and turn off all other devices in your home that are hooked on to your wireless network. Did you know that the average home has around 13 devices hooked onto their Wi-Fi? That's inevitably going to cramp your style. Also, try to use a website like speedtest.net to test your internet connection and make sure your Wi-Fi is speedy. Another key is to look at your computer notifications. Do you get any noisy notifications? Is your iPhone synced up with your computer and ringing sometimes? This is definitely a situation that you need to handle. From there, restart your laptop to make sure it hasn't been on for too long, because that can also make it really glitchy. Make a point to always test your camera and your microphone both a few days before the interview and the morning of. We all know the one person that shows up 10 minutes late because of a computer or microphone problem. That's so not the look that you were going for. It's going to hurt your chances of getting the job. Number 4, be on time. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but my fourth tip is to be on time. Your interview may be over video chat, but showing up late to a virtual interview will make you look bad, period. Being late to a Zoom interview is never a good look. If you can't be on time in your own house with your pajama bottoms on, why would they believe you'll be on time if you get the job? Be sitting at your computer and ready to go, waiting in the Zoom room 5 minutes before. If worse comes to worse and you have computer issues, send the employer an email right away telling them that you will be a few minutes late due to a technical glitch. I cringe for you even thinking that this would have to happen. And yet, in the work from home era we're in, the good news is that they might just be a little more understanding about that. Okay, number 5, use a cheat sheet. Before the interview, you can create a cheat sheet with information about the company, the interviewers, yourself, and possible answers to the questions you think they might ask. Since it's online, you can easily put it right below your webcam so you can glance at it throughout the interview. This is one of the biggest perks of a Zoom interview, and I would be lying to you if I didn't address this one. In the end, whether you like the idea of a Zoom interview or not, they are here to stay. All right, it's Ashley Stahl signing off, career coach, author, podcast host, and above all, your friend. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this with a friend who might need this. Until next time, goodbye for now.